Welcome, everyone, to the Monday, February 3rd, 2025 Village of Lansing Board of Trustees meeting. I call meeting to order at 7:33. We had a couple of technical issues that Jody has resolved. The first order of business is roll call. Susan Ainsley.
Present.
Wolfgang Bollmer.
Here.
Carolyn Greenwald.
Here.
Kathleen Yen.
Here.
And Ronnie Hardaway is here. Thank you. The next agenda item is a public comment period. This is a period to allow people who are either in chambers or online to provide a public comment on any topic that's not already on our agenda. Is there anyone who would like to speak?
I guess, is the board order line change on your agenda?
No.
No.
Then I think somebody asked to speak.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And just give us your full name.
Sure. Michael Wallish, would you like my contact info?
Yes, please.
I'll pass it. Okay, thank you. Me, Michael Wallish, I'm at 46 Norway. Board Warner has asked for a line change there, and there's a new development going to come in. First of all, let me say I have a lot of respect for Board Warner. I'm going to go about 5 minutes. If you say I have to shorten that, you tell me. I'll do my best, okay?
5 minutes should be fine.
Okay. They're a great asset to the community and a great neighbor. We want to make sure the next neighbor we have is as good an asset, okay? You've heard preliminarily from them, the buyer, about greenlighting this property. So hopefully my comments on this matter will actually help it go more smoothly. In that sentiment, I want to tell you that my biggest concerns are that I don't have behind my house, there's 10 units, and one of them that are right next to this property at the bottom. And I don't want a large dog park behind me, I don't want a large pickleball court behind me because of the sound. To a lesser extent, the outdoor pool, 3 months of the year is all year. Further, just to make sure you don't think I'm overreacting, I have two pictures here of the East Point Dog Park. That's the one directly across the street, the same developer's doing it, okay?
Right.
The first picture I want to show you is how close their neighbor is to that dog park. Now, it's 62 feet, and you can say that it's the, oh, wait, here, let me pass them together because you're gonna go around. This is what they give to their own residents. So it's 62 feet to this neighbor, 100 feet to their own resident. You can see how far, now you can say it's winter, trees are gone some, but there's still dogs in that park. And even when I took the pictures, there was dogs coming. There's also lights on this dog park, okay? And this is a pretty large dog park back there. So that's my biggest concern, and I guess I have some questions what we can do as property owners below it. For instance, is there a setback rule of so many feet that if we want to put a wall up or something, it has to be 2 feet from our property line, 6 feet, something like that? That would be the first kind of question. The next kind of question is, the utilities are at the back of our line, so I'm afraid trees wouldn't do it, or I'd put up trees. But it's possible construction could start as early as this summer, so trees wouldn't help us in that construction period. I also represent, like I said, these are 10 owners, but I'd like to give them all their own choice as opposed to one big fence. Some people are more sensitive to sound, noise, et cetera. So if we'd have to have individual permits, I assume, but if they want to apply, because they're putting these on up at their own cost. Now, coincidentally, I am the secretary of this homeowners association of 48 units, but I'm not here in that capacity.
Right.
I'm here in the capacity myself as an owner. Thank you. And by the way, you can keep the pictures. So first I say, do you have any questions of me?
No.
Okay. Next I say, do the trustees recommend that I contact this buyer myself and show him my concerns before he puts his formal plan in?
You should be contacted by them as they prepare to build, but I would recommend to answer many of your questions, contact Mike Scott, our code enforcement officer.
Mike Scott. And who's he with?
He is with the village.
I'll give you a card.
Oh, with the village. Oh, I know, he's from your website.
Yep.
I was thinking he was with,
No, he's not
I
with,
assume he's the zoning officer.
he is not with Park Grove, I believe.
I thought he was with, yeah.
No.
Okay, the zoning officer, I know who that is.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
He knows he knows about the setbacks and what they are proposed to be. Only if he has the current plans. He may not have the current plans, so he may not know what the proposed setbacks would be, but he knows what they normally should be.
Took a look at the zoning count, and I see that there's 25 feet between, you gotta have from the end of your building, like to your property line. So I'm sure he has much more details.
It has more details.
Also, in these pictures, they show kind of a buffer there. I don't see them in this plan at the top and the bottom, but there's buffers around this dog park, which does help, that trees they left. Can a requirement of plan be that they would be required to give us a buffer zone of some distance, or is the setback all they're required?
No, if there are concerns about noise,
Right.
a buffer zone would be proposed most likely by the village planning board
Okay.
as they go through the process. And that would come up normally from what I have experienced in the past.
Would you suggest that I contact in addition to Mike, the village planning board, or?
It does not hurt.
At least
Could I-
for the planning board.
Ronnie?
Yes, Lisa?
Yeah, this is, I'm here tonight covering for the planning board as liaison. And I would just, this hasn't come to the planning board yet. You know,
Correct.
but I mean, I believe they came to the trustees and talked about it, or someone has, this has not
Yes.
yet come to the planning board. And so when it does, if Mike Scott could let you know when it's going to be on our agenda, and you could come and provide comment to us when we have the public hearing about this project.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I didn't know where you were talking from.
These are the kind of things that the planning board typically hears from neighbors, and they will absolutely listen to what you have to say, and when making their determinations, will consider all of this, so you should 100% present
Thank you for your time.
and be present.
I'm sorry, thank you for your time and that input. Then in conclusion, I just say, I'm gonna try to protect myself as a resident, but I'm after the planning board, the trustees, to protect us all while not opposing development. We know we've got to do development, and thank you for your
We understand.
interest and information.
I got a quick question for you. Are the lights on the fence?
Yes.
Are they trespassing?
Each quarter of the thing.
I was the lighting commissioner at the time, and I reviewed the lighting plan, and they had no lights on any dog park, so bring that up to Mike's attention, and he can address that.
Well,
I saw the pictures, that's,
Well, I'm gonna give you one. These aren't as clear
you
as,
can leave it right there, Michael appreciates that. He'll see it tomorrow.
both pictures, mine and, the one of both units clearly show lights.
Yeah.
Okay, again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments for public comment?
A question, Ronnie. I have about a 1-minute comment regarding the resolution.
That will happen during the resolution discussion. Anyone else? Seeing none and hearing none, I will move that we close the public comment period.
Second.
Wolfgang seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Our next agenda item is to approve the draft minutes from January 13th and 16th, 2025. I believe we were all here, so we can pass them both at the same time. I will move these draft minutes for discussion.
Second.
Susan seconds. Is there any comments or concerns about the minutes?
No other corrections made,
Did you submit corrections?
just one minor one, but
Right, Jody?
Yes, they all went to you guys. I sent you the final after all the corrections. were
Okay,
done.
so the ones we received had the corrections within them. Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? All those in favor of approving the minutes from January 13th and 16th, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next agenda item is to consider a new proposed resolution by John Dennis relating to Cargill. I will move that for consideration.
Second.
Susan seconds. John, this would be the moment for your 1 minute comment.
Yeah, you're, just to answer any questions, if there may be one small correction, where it says greater than 1.25 miles, it should be just 1.2 miles. I had our.
Okay.
And I just thought I'd read the last sentence of the letter, January 6th letter that Richard Yeager, a retired research hydrologist of the USGS, who was in the office for about 30 years. And he notes in his letter that they had asked Cargill after the mine collapse of Retzoff in 1994 for any information, because they were very urgently wondering if a similar collapse had come here. And he said he was shocked to find that Cargill did not release a 1995 study that showed there was an aquifer between the mine and the lake. So he just learned of that recently. But his last sentence reads, the potential widespread effects of a catastrophic mine collapse are too severe to allow a private company to assess its own practices. So an EIS would be a third-party study of the entire mine. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I see Sean is online. Sean, would you like to make a short comment? I mean, yeah, Sean.
Yes, I guess I'll just start with the comment there regarding Mr. Yeager. As far as the aquifer, I believe the aquifer that it was talking about that was identified was the aquifer at the bottom of the lake sediments between that. There is no aquifers that have been identified below that level. Again, this is something just to remind everybody that when Retzoff happened, Cargill started out upon the same review to answer the same questions of could a similar thing that happened at Retzoff happen at Cargill? The DEC did the same thing. Obviously, it's one mine failed, so they didn't want to take a chance with another one, especially given where the lake was or where the mine was in relationship to the lake. And so that there were 7 years of work, so as far as we're concerned, all the same things as an EIS would do, including a public comment period that was held that not a single person showed up to. And so again, all the same processes have been done. So I think what you have in front of you is a resolution to ask the DEC to rescind the negative declaration. That open comment period, just as a reminder, did close on January 19th. So we're far past any open comment period. Again, I don't know what this would do, but it's just a reminder. And I did have a call today with Tom Wrigley from the DEC, and he did verify that it would not be considered as far as part of the review process for the permit modification and renewal that's in play at this time.
Is that everything, Sean?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be happy to provide a slight comment.
No. We commented quite a bit at our previous meeting on the first proposed resolution. Is there any discussion among the trustees about this resolution?
I think that Kathleen would support a resolution, and I might support a modified resolution, but I don't think we should discuss it if it's not going to be possible amongst a majority. And if you three are not interested in addressing a modified version of this resolution, then I don't need to discuss it further.
I would favor a resolution of support for an environmental impact statement, and for a variety of reasons. One, that it has not been done. And I kind of view things as a win-win where the industry collaborates not only in the assessment of potential long-term impact to our freshwater, critical natural resource. Cuba Lake watershed provides source drinking water for over 1,000 residents. It also is fundamental to the economic vitality of the entire region. So the fact that it wasn't required at the early 1900s until seeker was then required, I don't think is sufficient justification for not having an EIS. So as part of the watershed, and to protect the long-term, both economic and environmental health of the region and our drinking water quality in the future, I would support an EIS statement.
I basically feel the same way, but I would want our resolution to be extremely brief. Like
Yeah,
maybe.
I would reduce it to
Yeah.
basically
But like I
the
said, we don't have to vote.
stakeholders.
We don't need to.
No, we need to go around the room. Wolfgang, do you have any more to say?
Well, in principle, we made a decision. I have no new facts. I have no new data. The mine has been here since, I don't know, so it can collapse with or without the whole S3 level storage and things like that. So for me, there is no reason why I should change my decision unless I get really a set of really reliable data, I get really all the information I need, and I get at least 3 studies, and not only one, which could be biased one way or the other. Everybody knows studies are biased. So for me, there is no reason why we should change our decision.
Okay. Susan?
Agreed.
With Wolfgang? Okay. I tend to agree also, so I think we probably should table this again. All right. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
did just want to just point out one last thing. I just want to say thank you again for inviting me and providing the opportunity. You and the town of Lansing are the only ones in the entire community who has tried to seek at least the other side. So again, thank you for the due diligence. I think also at the last meeting you brought up concerns about also just even the closure of one mine and being dependent upon one other mine in the state of New York. I don't know if people are watching the news, but that other mine, American Rock Salt, cut off all their commercial customers on January 6th and put all of their governmental customers on allocation. The week after that has been failing to supply their customers with salt because they were overextended. So that's all over the news right now. And that is something that they have unfortunately done in the past and just flat cut off customers and things like that. So I just want some folks to understand there is that, you brought up, I think, a very astute point of again, most of the salinity in the lake is traced back to the use of road salt. That's not going to stop.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, John.
Well, I'd like to add a minute since he was.
Sure, 1 minute.
The study that he's referring to, done in the year 2000, so a quarter of a century ago, said that it would be out of date in 10 years. So that study is not equivalent to an EIS in any way, shape, or form. And even if it was, it's vastly out of date. The other salt mine has done 2 EISs in the last 21 years. So, I have to object that there has not been an adequate study of this mine ever in the 54 years that Cargill has managed it. And this in no way, shape, or form threatens Cargill in any way, other than that the richest private corporation in North America would have to pay for it. And they seem to be reluctant to spend money. They've got shaft number 1 that's leaking all this water into the mine. They could grout it and try to shut that leak off. They don't, because they want to keep producing salt and make it, make the mine look more saleable, trying to maximize profits. The last time I heard the salt mine The other small mine was expanding their staffing, are not cutting back. Why are they growing bigger? Because they're more efficient, they're a newer salt mine, they're safer. So I don't see that mine shutting down. The mine was suggested that they're certainly not shutting down, they're doing a great job. They produce about twice as much salt as this one already. Anyway, thank you very much. It's been a privilege to speak to all of you.
Thank you, John.
And, studies are a good thing. Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is to consider setting a public hearing for proposed local law A 2025, amending the Village of Lansing Chapter 125 subdivision of land to include provisions for lot line adjustment. Did everyone have a chance to look at the law? Any comments about the local law?
Just questions. So I appreciate wanting to define adjustments and the criteria for it. My question is, how many lot adjustment applications are there in a year? Like last year, I think it was just like one.
We don't allow them, so we don't really know, but it's not that frequent.
It's not.
In other
it's just treated.
municipalities, you might see a couple in a year.
Yeah.
Might go a couple of years without any.
So,
It's really viewed from the non-municipal side as beneficial to allow people to make these kinds of adjustments where, as between neighbors, they agree. I mean, they're in agreement, this would be best for the two of us, and without doing violence to the zoning or the overall planning of the area. It doesn't change any of that, and it's inexpensive, and it's timely. It's not nearly as exhaustive as the planning boards, who, their job is more subdivision oriented, and a lot line adjustment can be viewed as a kind of subdivision, but
right.
one that doesn't need the attention and the,
so with,
I don't want to say red tape, but, the government oversight that a subdivision might.
so it would just be adjacent parcels, not one owner consolidating?
Well, an owner can consolidate anyways. You can do that.
That'd be
Basically,
under
giving up
this.
your separate lots, that would simply mean if they ever wanted to sell off a lot again, they'd have to subdivide.
So that would be
The plan.
a subdivision, not a lot line change?
Well, a consolidation is a consolidation, that's subdivision is cutting up, consolidation, putting together.
Okay, and then how many, would this apply to all districts?
I would imagine, I don't think in the form we looked at it, that it differentiates. It's equally applicable to a commercial district, I would imagine. The criteria, the thinking is that the criteria gives code enforcement the leeway to approve it if it's truly consistent with all of the other issues, and leave the agreement to the parties. But as long as it is consistent with zoning and the overall plan, the comprehensive plan, then it just makes things easier for people. Chances are it's going to get approved at by the planning board anyway.
And then if you had all of these parts, the rationale for removing the planning board from the review process?
Largely time, and the planning board has a pretty full plate.
And this is just.
And these are just agreements between neighbors, and they, it's practical. That's kind of the notion.
And so it would be a written agreement. And how about future, just looking at the number that's allowed, so it would allow 2 lot line adjustments in a tax parcel. Can can you foresee any, so you could come December 2024, January 2025, so you could potentially get 4 lot line adjustments. Why would you?
Remember, you're just
per
using
year?
the lot lines. You're
Yeah.
not
So,
between parties who agree.
yeah, yeah. I'm just wondering, to, you would, I'm trying to think of a situation that you would need to continue to keep adjusting lot lines and any
You do it
potential
one time,
challenges.
And then you'd be done.
But it
It
allows-
allows 2, but
Per year.
in all, well, I can say in all the years I've been doing real estate locally and representing both municipalities and property owners, I've only seen one instance where a second lot line adjustment was proposed for a lot down on Schickle Road in the town of Ithaca. And it was last year. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because at the end of the day, the parties couldn't come to an agreement. So it just stalled and disappeared. But there had been a prior lot line adjustment to permit a location of a garage on a particular property, and the lot line adjustment gave the side yard that adjusted it in the backyard, so that each one ended up with almost exactly the same acreage. It just slightly reconfigured it so that one neighbor could add a garage that was not objectionable to the other. And that's kind of the situation. They're not just moving lines to move lines.
Yeah, I just like the fact of the planning board having an overall review of the whole history.
Again,
But as it's kind of a checks
the
and.
board decides the law here, and the planning board applies what the rules are. And if the board feels that these kinds of arrangements need the planning board to be involved, then we probably don't need a lot line adjustment law. But the idea here is that these things are so uncontroversial, and if they are controversial, it can be stopped by the code enforcement officer, who is very sensitive to controversy. But these are simple agreements between 2 neighbors who want to adjust their boundaries. It might be because there's a slope, it might be because they want to put in a garden, it might be a million different reasons. And why involve the planning board in that process and the 2 or 3 meetings that it takes to get there? I mean, that's kind of, it's
That's my
the convenience factor.
I do not think that the planning board needs to step in on this circumstance, and it's a rare circumstance, and they have enough real issues on their plate, and if there was anything controversial, Mike would flag it. So I think we're very, very securely covered if I'm in favor of this.
And there's still costs involved with each lot line adjustment. If they do several per year, they've got to come up with new drawings and pay the fee again.
Surveyors will be happy, the lawyers will
Yeah.
be really happy.
But, so I think there are natural things in place that would prevent it from being misused, is what I'm trying to say. And Peter was saying it too, but I don't feel that it will just be 3 or 4 per year. I think probably if you move it, and like Peter said, they might come back and do a second one, but once you're into the negotiations, you discover more information, and you want to do a second lot line, but I don't see 3 or 4 happening a year.
I think a perfect example is Burdick Hill. The solar panel array was set up on the neighbor's property by a few feet. And a simple lot line adjustment in that case would resolve it, rather than taking down the structure and moving it into a different place.
It's a good example, John.
Thank you. No, thanks for clarifying.
Any other comments?
Nothing.
Carol? I have none. So we would need to look at setting a public hearing, and our next evening meeting is March 3rd, right? So I will propose that I will move that we set a public hearing for proposed local law A 2025 for chapter 125 to add lot line adjustment for Monday, May 3rd at 7:30. March 3rd, sorry, one of those M months. March 3rd at 7:30. You know, it's sunshine.
April, yeah.
Okay, sorry. March 3rd at 7:35 PM.
Second.
Wolfgang seconds. Any other discussion about the date and time?
No.
With the right month? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. The next agenda item, I'm going to ask Kathy Yin to speak to. This is a proposal from out of our climate smart communities for promoting shaded areas in public places. Kathleen?
So, shall I read it, or?
No, just,
Mr. Riddle?
don't need to read it, just explain what we're trying to do at a high level.
So the real thing is, in addition to the aesthetics, the real thing is shaded areas which can include natural or built structures. Natural would be trees, is really the environmental benefit. Ecological habitat, carbon storage, erosion control, water retention, stormwater runoff mitigation, and it's aligned with our code, it's aligned with our Greenway plan, and it's where feasible to take it into consideration for shaded areas in public places. So, did you have questions?
I have no questions. I think it's a good proposal.
Well, I have a comment.
Can I make a comment?
That's known since 300 years, so what are we doing here? Since 300 years, it's known that shade helps with the sun. And the more sun, the more shaded areas go into the southern countries, where they have a lot of sun, they have a lot of shutters, they have shade, they have whatever. So, it's known since, I don't know, since manhood. That helps. So what are we trying to do here? That's my first question. Second question, we allow developers coming in, cutting trees left and right and whatever. Best example, above my house. We are coming in and removing whatever, and approving that, and at the same time, we make a resolution to promote shaded areas. I don't get it. Sorry.
So
I just
you
don't get it.
have the resolution on the books and as part of the code, when the developer comes, you have more pushback, is what you can say, is that that's antithetical to what we're promoting here, and that doesn't go along with the comprehensive plan. And it provides the planning board with a little substance to rely on when they want to see certain trees and other aesthetics maintained.
We have a tree law. We have
Maybe
somebody, if somebody removes a tree, he has to plant some new. I don't know what the developers of the developments up above my house, I didn't at least see that they planted trees. And
having been on the planning board for 5 years, I would say that every time that we had something in the code that would support our position, it was easier to be steadfast in looking for what was in the direction that we wanted the project to go in.
for me, it's just more about what do we allow, what don't we allow, and, things which are really known since ages. I don't just understand why we need a resolution right now to promote something which is widely known. Probably not, well.
Just a second, John had asked to speak.
The only thing, if you guys do go through with the resolution, the only thing I would make a recommendation is, on the end of it, it said, Superintendent of Public Works and Code Enforcement will plan make sure there's shaded areas. I would just leave that up to the Parks and Recreation. I mean, you can leave the two department heads in there, but I feel like the Parks and Recreation Committee should visit the park and discuss the tree locations if they're needed. But that's only if you pass it. I didn't mean to get into conversation.
Isn't it already in our comprehensive plan, in our Greenway plan? So why do I just don't understand why we need to do that, so.
Shaded structures.
No teeth to it.
Well, the resolution actually would, So the green, you can develop the policies after specific policies, and that would have input from the Greenway Committee. And both the Greenway Committee and it's referred to in both the Greenway Committee and Comprehensive Plan, but in terms of a public ordinance, I'm not aware that we actually have it. We have the tree, which is mostly with residential. And if you're developing trails and you're connecting trails, shaded areas, especially with climate change and weather events that we're having, it does provide shade from direct sunlight. And it is something that you would consider in planning.
That's widely.
Your long-range capital plan.
That's widely known. If I go running at noon in June, I go somewhere in the woods where I have some shade. Otherwise, I'm not going to run.
Right.
So honestly, it's just common sense. It's widely known. So I have no idea why we really need to create resolutions for common sense. Honestly.
I will speak about this. We're working with the state's NYSERDA's Climate Smart Communities program within the state. They want all of the municipalities who are participating in this to pass resolutions stating goals related to mitigating or creating more resilience for your municipality in times of climate change, extreme heat. And it's just, we're saying as a municipality, we understand that our summers are getting longer, drier, hotter. Sometimes the heat is life-threatening, and that we will, in the future, for our developments and our plantings, provide shaded areas that allow people to escape from that heat. And that's all this resolution is really doing, saying this is what our municipality will do. Yes, it's common sense. It's also common sense that extreme heat kills people. And we want to prevent that and let developers and our residents know that we are looking to the future to protect them in the future for heat events. That's all this is doing.
Lisa wants to say something.
Yes, Lisa?
So, we're still working on the tree law. And one of the things that's different about this actually is something that's we've encountered in the past, is that this talks specifically about public places. And our code kind of addresses more like commercial development and residential. And so maybe this is something that we need to be looking at for the tree code, because I do recall that at times when we've done projects in our own village, sometimes the process hasn't been quite the same as we might do for a commercial developer. And yet we probably should be going by the same sort of rules so that somebody would be looking at the landscaping of a project, for example, some of the parks. And so maybe this has a bit of a different twist than what the code has currently about, we don't talk about public places in the way that this resolution does. And maybe it's something that we should incorporate into our code if this resolution does not seem to be of interest. I don't know.
I guess I have a question now about the purpose of it. So when I'm reading the first, all the whereas clause, I thought it was just going to apply, globally to projects that come across. But when you get to the be it now resolved, it says hereafter while planning and developer constructions on village property, which makes it seem that this is only talking about village property, which is much smaller in scope. And then it makes sense why you would involve the superintendent of public works. So this is, if that's the sole goal, was that the sole goal when you drafted this? Just, we're talking about village property? Because when I was reading the beginning, I just assumed you were just talking about projects that come before.
I think that we do that normally within our planning board. We do worry about trees, but as far as commercial or residential. But yes, for the village places, and we have literally done this in the past for our parks. the pavilions are a prime example that we put in our parks. So if we build anything new, we would propose to put a shaded area in that so that we wouldn't just create a wide open area with no places for people who are visiting that park to have a shaded area.
I
had
retract
forgotten
my
that this-
previous statement, I thought.
Yeah,
it was about
the
just
resolution
in
is
general.
is related
Just
to
to
the village
village
properties. But realistically, we need to do the same thing within the planning board for our developments. Sorry.
I would like to keep the public side and the private side out of the code, as Lisa mentioned. I think it would make it very complicated for us to take a tree that was next to the sanitary sewer line that was growing into the sewer line, take that down for purposes like this, say a 24-inch willow tree, and have to pay on a caliper prorated amount into the village tree bank. It doesn't make sense. Sometimes we have to take trees down for safety, so we're very cautious. We typically get the board's approval if there's trees in question, but for safety wise, we typically go ahead and do it, so.
Well, that's allowed by the code, actually, for safety, I think. I think it's in there.
Yeah, I think there are allowances. And we as a village, if we take a tree down, we as a village can plant a tree in a park or something, not necessarily the same caliper. I don't think it would, the rules don't necessarily apply as much to the village. We're already fairly, as much as we can be, focused on trees and keeping them. I know your department does that, and we have in the past. So this would just be for our village parks and anything that we control in this case. It's not commercial development or private development, so. But it does obviously state that we are concerned about having cooling places, shaded areas during times of extreme heat.
So it's really just to, it's a resolution to say that when feasible, that you are now aware and you take into consideration moving forward the potential for incorporating shade trees, incorporating covered structures to facilitate community gatherings, to provide protection, et cetera, on public property.
I agree. I think Wolfgang hit the nail on the head here. Common sense. We worked on Hartel Park. We worked around very tall, very consolidated trees, and we saved a lot of them. And we were able to, and we replanted a lot of trees in there. It's common sense, and that's what we do. We have the Parks Committee that sets. Carolyn and Ronnie went out, we looked at tree locations, we planted a lot of trees in the village. So we do that. So this is really not gonna affect the village DPW at all. We already do it.
No, the reason we do these resolutions, we've done several resolutions along this vein, is that at some point, we might want to request or apply for a state grant through the climate smart communities, DEC, NYSERDA. And if we have enough points related to our actions that we pretty much already do, we're just stating that we're going to do it in a resolution.
We just missed $25,000 on grants from this NYSERDA CSC task force.
Right.
Did that erase all the points that we've accumulated? We worked exceptionally hard.
No, that was clean energy communities. That was, we're working two programs in parallel. Clean energy communities, so we got the grants, those grants were from clean energy communities. Climate smart communities is a whole different grant pool.
Too many acronyms.
And they're so much alike. And quite frankly, CEC's actions that you pursue are embedded within climate smart communities.
Oh, so that's it.
So we have to, by doing a lot of our actions, we're doing both in parallel. We do the same amount of work, we get credit for both agencies. The CEC grants, I think, are going away now. I think the state has felt that it's met its purpose, but there's still the climate smart community grants that could be available to us down the road, whether we choose to use them or not, but at least they might be available to help with a future very expensive program.
Even if it's just common sense, it doesn't hurt us and it could potentially help us.
Could,
So I would be in favor of the resolution.
but I agree, it is common sense, but when it comes to government,
But when it comes to, yeah,
That's what I figured out the last 2 years. When it comes to government, there's no common sense. And, if a DEC,
now, you're a government too, Wolfgang.
yeah, I know. And if a DEC truck at the same time runs for 3 hours because the guy checks license plates in a tourist area, Lake Placid, if you see that, then I question climate smart, honestly. Just my 2 cents.
So
So if we need that to be eligible for grants, go ahead and,
we would not do harm to anyone.
you don't have to do harm anything. If you read the resolution, it doesn't do harm
No,
at all.
doesn't do anything.
It doesn't, on the other hand, it doesn't force you to do something.
No, it does
It's
not.
just a statement which you put on your website. That's basically all. And I'm against these kind of statements, but anyway, let's go ahead.
Any other discussion?
None from me.
All those in favor of passing this resolution, say aye.
We didn't
Aye.
have a first or a second.
Oh, we
You
didn't?
didn't even propose a resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Let's propose.
I will move that we pass this, I am moving the resolution promotion of shaded areas and places.
Second.
Susan seconds. After our discussion, all those in favor of passing this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Now then, 2025 budget assignments and started discussion. Jody,
What?
tell us what we have to do. You gave us a schedule. So
I gave you a schedule, you assigned different people to different sections.
I've done that.
So I don't know what you want me to do. Basically, John and I, and you, pretty much John and I do the budget. So
Right,
people want to sit in so they can learn, then that's fine.
right. So,
But if you have any projects that you think you want to see added,
That's the
Tell
biggest
us.
thing right there.
Yeah.
If you know of any trails, any parks, any appurtenances to parks, that would help us out, create funding allocated for those specific projects.
You just want to clear cut something, I know you,
yeah,
just as well.
selective hearing always works. Yeah, I just, these areas have been assigned, so I just ask that the trustees assigned to those areas contact John, Jody, or Mike, Mike Less, John or Jody. Make sure that your concerns or ask questions and help us to get this budget done. We have a fairly short cycle this year, less meetings.
Every year.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, we've got a meeting, we're missing a meeting in the middle. It's a fairly busy cycle, so start soon and let's get it done as early as possible.
Could you just say specifically?
I would love for you guys to say right now what kind of things you would like to see in the budget. Like, I would like to see, I don't know, a trail here. I would like to see new playground equipment here. Or I'm concerned because I drive down, Burdick Hill Road and there's potholes, is that on our schedule? I mean, that's the kind of stuff we want you guys to give us feedback on.
So the comprehensive planning committee has been talking about whether or not they want to create some maps. So some of the maps we might not otherwise obtain might be something we want to budget, and amongst the maps that we were thinking about was something that was user-friendly in a more, not such a municipal way, more of a social, like a map that's like sidewalks to parks. That would be just something that people could use kind of in their daily life more, and that might be something that would be created at a park. That would be, like if you go to the Lansing Town Parks, you have the map, you are here, and it's something. So just kind of maybe we're thinking about maps, and we're thinking about trail maps, but I didn't really necessarily think that we're ready for a budget discussion about it, but.
So something like that is not gonna cost you very much money. I mean, we're talking, maybe if you went elaborate, you'd spend $1,000, maybe? I mean, because it wouldn't.
No, but somebody would have to create it.
Well, isn't that done by the county and didn't GIS?
I'm not having beautiful maps created for me by GIS. I can show,
Okay,
I can show,
so
but they.
basically what you would need to do is find out where you want to get these maps from and what the cost would be. And then give that to us, and then we'll put it in the budget. Basically, it would go into, if it's park and recreation, it's contractual. It's just gonna be, like right now, we have maybe $10,000 in there for benches or for trash cans or little things, soccer nets at the park. That would be part of that number. Was just,
Okay.
Did you just say you had GIS working on some maps?
I asked them.
Okay, because I'm working on the maps for you right now.
Well, that was because the response I got from them was not super.
Dondi, I got with Dondi, he's assigned Patrick, his colleague, and they're gonna import the B&T park, I think is what was in your email.
Well, the B&T park that you gave me is the same one that we have. So I was gonna ask Cornell if they have an updated version, because I heard from Jody that the one we have is slightly inaccurate, but it's the same one that Dondi just produced for you. Unless he's redrawing it.
He replied after that and said he had some more information.
Oh, okay.
We'll worry about that later. So basically maps is what you're looking for, parks, recreation.
I'm interested in maps
for the
right now.
budget. and then that's for the comprehensive plan, but as far as the other maps is, like Jody said, we always have a few $1,000s extra in the contractual funds, that it's not an issue to get some maps done.
Okay, awesome.
Some wayfinding maps, I think is what you're.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about wayfinding maps, exactly.
We have had a request, and Carolyn did mention it, to have parks, have maps within the parks on display that show what park you're in and how you might get to the other parks.
Exactly.
So it's not just the map, but it's the display method to get the maps outside and visible, so.
Like on the trails.
Right.
Within like you would have with, near the entrance of the parks, you would have a weather-resistant map displayed. So those might be more expensive.
Like we have a bulletin board now, like in Dankirk Park, you would just want to put the map on that bulletin board.
Well, it's the same kind of thing that they have at the Lansing Trails, like that kind of map. I don't know what it's made of.
Yeah, but it's weather-resistant, so they would be a little more
That's what I'm
expensive.
thinking about.
They are more expensive.
I don't, we haven't really discussed new trails or sidewalks, so we probably should discuss
I
that.
had a suggestion, and my goal was to finish the sidewalk on Uptown Road. There's a lot of use in front of Gaslight Village, and it's to bring the streetlights down to Nissan and finish that walk. That has complete continuity then along the village streets from Cinema Drive, actually from Trip Hammer,
Right.
all the way up to Warren Road, rather than walking through the back 40 of Shadow Claire and Uptown Village where they're not really lit safely, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that was one of the things I was kind of gonna propose to you and get that done and then set some areas up for future sidewalks I had some thoughts of some storm sewer up in Lansing Trails 1. And as like, very much like what we did at St. Joseph's in Wetumpka, we put the storm in with a setup close enough to the road so we can have the buffer, the tree lawn area between the edge of the road and the sidewalk that the storm would go in, and then set the sidewalk up in the future. So it's like a two-stage thing. That was my offerings to the budget, besides some roads, paving, and some potential water line replacement.
Oh, that's helpful.
Stuff like that. I was gonna concoct the budget like we normally do and propose that to you.
I know that the uptown, completion of the uptown sidewalk was one of our main sidewalks that the Greenway Committee was interested in. So I think that that's a good candidate for this next year.
So sidewalks, maps. How about any stream stabilization work?
Streams are pretty well off. We've been hitting a storm and in the conveyance areas where it crosses the roads. And a lot of them streams are on private property, so we can't do any benefits there. So anything where it crosses the road, we've been doing a lot of culvert replacements. So I know there's at least 2 culverts up in Lansing Trails 1, even though it's not that old of a development, it's a 25-year-old development. They use galvanized pipe in there, almost 30-year-old development. They use galvanized pipe, which the village has high acidic soils, and they'll take a galvanized pipe out prematurely. One is gonna be a major reconstruction job. It's somewhere around the 20-ish Janivar Drive. There's where the trailhead comes out. I know that's gonna be a week-long event where it's total road shut down. It's very deep, conveys a lot of water. But to answer your question, not really off the top of my head, do we need any conveyance infrastructure reinforcement?
How about the stormwater retention ponds?
That we're doing this spring. We have all them slated on this spring schedule to get done. That was in last year's budget. We're gonna have some time. We got our lead service line investigations done early. It didn't take as long, and we started a little stormwater retention areas there. That's on our radar for this spring, is to get them all back up into compliance. We've been seeing more and more frequent torrential downpours. There has been some trouble areas, Beckett Way on down to Cedar Lane. There's a pond that's on Beckett Way in Wedgewood that we're gonna clean out. We're gonna look at some possible more retention there. But most of them should be all in compliance this spring, if the weather cooperates. If not, we're still gonna put some money in there to finish them up this summer.
So what happens if it's in the budget this year and they can't get it to it in the spring? We will encumber it at the end of the year because we planned that money, so we'll take it and move it if we know it's gonna be done like in June or July.
So on the list of projects that haven't been done, because what were you and I looking at one day? Some project, a little project, just.
There's always a few that we don't get to, and
So it's the few that you haven't gotten to? I would love to see them completed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We typically, like Jay
It's
said,
on the
either encumber
list.
the money or rebudget into next year.
Yeah, so to acknowledge it's there, and we haven't done it, and the money's there to do it when.
Right. So what I'll do is I'll go back and look at my projects and I'll go down through them. We've already had a lot of them checked off. Paving, Graham Road water, dark water, street lights, sidewalks, stuff like that. We'll go down through, we already have most of them checked off. The ring a bell, we have just a few small projects. Trail system up in the end of our area that goes up to Lee's Way. We still have to pave. That storm project took a little longer than we expected. So this spring we'll have time to pave it. It won't take only a few days. And then, so I'll chalk them all off if we go. And then Jody and I are always right at the end of, before the new budget starts, we're right there. She's on me. She's like, give me some quotes to allocate the money to repurpose it in the next year's budget.
Yeah, so that was top of my list, just clean everything up, especially with regard to what's going on with the town of Lansing and us, and, just,
What's the
Thank you.
hell the town of Lansing on us?
well, it's just making sure that we have, with new developments going in the town.
Oh, right, okay, sorry, I understand, sorry.
Yeah. And the maximum daily
I understand.
flow.
Yeah,
and all
I didn't-
that. Yeah.
So just to ask this again, when do you need, you go over the timeline for us, when do you need everything?
I already sent it to you. The next meeting, I should be able to
It's
get
March
all this
3rd.
stuff. So March 3rd. So I gave everybody worksheets in their little pile here, which you probably don't need them, but last year, I know you asked me for them, so I gave them this year. What'll happen is I will have everything that you guys have given me put into a budget. And then we'll see what. Okay. We'll see how much, we spend, if we need to cut projects out, because we don't, I mean, I think that our goal should be to not raise our tax rate, and I think we can do that. Yeah,
Sorry, March 3rd is the answer.
I need to have it, well, March 3rd's the meeting, I would love to have it like, at least the week before, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I want to know, thanks.
So if you guys can think of anything you want in parks, that, I don't have that concept that the Parks and Rec Committee have. So I know we talked about a lot of stuff at Shannon Park, stuff like that, and last year at this time, and then closer to budget time, we were talking about a consultant at the time. I really don't think we need a consultant to put a play structure up. I really don't. I think the demographics are the most important part of any consulting that you need to do. Is basically know what age group you're trying to target in a development. Whether you're trying to target the young to old, or just younger, up to 10, 13 years old.
I actually disagree, I think that a parks consultant would provide me, at least with, there are some things that professionals know that I don't know what I don't know. And I know that there are ways to draw people into properties and best use it, and I know that I don't know how to do that, I've never studied it.
Well,
I've always wanted a consultant to look at all of our parks and
There's
just,
a lot of,
we don't have to do it, I'm just saying.
play structure companies that will do consulting work for you for nothing.
That's if I want to play structure, but what if I just want to say, like, how do we create the pathway that will bring the most people into use the space? How do we create the space that most people will use? It's not necessarily play structure stuff.
Well,
Take a path from the mall to your park.
There you go, the connection.
There you'll get lots of people to use it.
Anyway,
The,
I do want a consultant someday.
one question I do have at a higher level, more serious level, is sewer lines and water lines for developments that are being proposed. Is there anything that we are probably going to have to do to support projects in this coming year?
Peter is gonna probably be the most help on what I have to say right now, and that's to pin the improvements on the developers. If it's legal to do, if they don't have enough capacity to bring 500 units in there, why should the village, have to support that expansion part? If there needs to be some improvements, like I emailed you the other day when we got notification that Uptown Park, that property in back Arleo's, was starting to research possible sewer units again.
Right.
And I brought to your attention that there's 5 target areas in the village sewer line that need some form of improvement. They can handle most of the zoned areas until special permits come, or where they need more units per development per property to make it feasible for them to come in. When you need something like that, our system is lacking a little bit. But we can only push so much down to the treatment plant that 3 months of last year toyed with their 2 million gallon a day average that they were allotted by the DEC.
Right.
So we're restricted there too. We can expand our system, our collector system, to take it down or convey it down there, but if they can't treat it, that's no good for anybody. So we gotta work in collaboration, in my opinion, with Cuba Heights. So the answer to your question is, we have areas that we need to improve.
Right.
We have some I&I that we need to stop. That's almost impossible. It's borderline impossible unless you can see it in manholes. I mean, that's where you're seeing your biggest I&I is exposure, right? You can see in there. And the sump pump drains that people have in their basements that are pumping into their sanitary line, you can't capture that. And they're pumping 10, 15 gallons a minute because all the basements in this area are in fractured rock and they're just giant bathtubs. So
the one project that I'm concerned about is Remington Road bypass. You might be requested soon to help pay for that. So do we not include anything in our budget this year and do that when it's ready? We're ready for it, or?
We can do 30-day permissive referendums. We can move money from the reserves rather than budget for something we don't know what the numbers are gonna be.
Okay.
Right?
That answers my question.
Typically, the 30-day permissive referendums usually go quite quick, and there's usually not much opposition to them if it's for something like that.
Okay.
And I feel that's probably the proper way of doing it this year. And like I was talking about the developments, there's a couple. One is Burley Drive, taking the line out of Burley Drive and putting it all in the village. That's one improvement. There's an improvement down at, just real quick, M&T Bank and Corner Bank, they're a trust company. Across the road, there's a flat line there that needs oversizing. So there's little areas like that right now work fine. And they'll handle a little bit more load. But if you start talking 160 units, we've already talked about pinching the developer for those expansions.
Okay.
So, and obviously, the board will have to get into that. Peter and Natalie are gonna dive into that.
Yes.
So I'm gonna come to you with what we have for capacity, and they're gonna want sewer units. But I think we're kind of limited to the 300 and some units that Brent's got us allocated for now.
That's our cap right now.
So that's my concern. I'd like, and I'll repeat, get everything cleaned up and in tip-top as best as it can be at this point, so we have firmer ground to stand on when we push back with development.
I agree with you on that, but the problem is, if you do it pre-development, then you probably can't get them to pony up for that, for some of those improvements. So if you do that before the development comes in, those expenditures are all on the village residents as it is. The developer's gonna come in and take advantage of you on that. So some of those improvements, you're better off just kind of laying low. We have enough capacity now, there's no surcharges to the ground. Let them lay, and then let the developer come in and say, well, you don't have enough capacity, what can we do to help you out?
And the positive is where our weak spots are.
We've already done the study.
Okay.
One other suggestion that was made by the Village of Cayuga Heights was they are investing money in, I forget what they're called, like a mini monitoring system for all of their manholes. And they were thinking that other municipalities might want to do that too, so you can consistently watch where I&I might be coming from.
Yeah, we talked about that. We had it in one year's budget. It was basically just a monitoring system that was on cell data, and it transmitted it back to
Just flow? It's monitoring flow?
Yeah, monitoring the
Not
flow.
visual.
What's that?
It's not visual.
No,
Not visual, no, monitoring. It was a transducer basically in there, an ultra laser, some kind of measuring system. And we toyed with that idea, but it's labor intensive. You got, you know, you got to kind of babysit them and this and that. So I will comment on what you just said about Remington Road though, as we paid for Klein Road bypass, and then it was taken away from us. The village residents just paid for a 13% increase, and the mayor Woodard said it was for $5.99. So I would be careful about how much money you're gonna put towards a project
I agree.
that we're not gonna have some teeth in the game.
We're gonna have
in it,
teeth.
You know,
We're gonna have teeth before the game. I'm not, our municipality is not going to be the only municipality that pays for it. So, because burned once, we're not gonna get burned again, so. Anyway, no, that's totally negotiable, but no, I'm just thinking of ideas, things that we might want to consider for the budget, so this is a good discussion.
Jody and I was gonna talk to her about it. I know some rough budget numbers for those projects, for those improvements. And my recommendation to her was to leave them out of the budget and wait for development to come in.
I agree.
And then do a 30-day permissive referendum. I think we're gonna have to spearhead them, those projects, use our engineers, use a bidded contractor, and then have them supplement the village.
That sounds.
Makes sense, John.
That sounds good, yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or ideas? To get more ideas, obviously, Greenway Committee, Comprehensive Plan, CSC, I don't know what we would come up with, but anything that you know of, we need to get new numbers from the Youth Services Board, et cetera, if they haven't already sent those to us.
Those, I think, are being sent out. But I will.
Okay, so we,
ask.
yeah, those would change, so, okay, so.
I think we're gonna have to start, because we spent a lot out of our reserves for water and sewer. We need to start building our reserves back up again.
Exactly
For a
right.
for a long time, we haven't added to them, and we need to start doing that again, I think.
We did 12,000 feet of 10-inch water main in the last 3 years. I think that is time to just take a little break, let those recoup.
I agree. So we'll talk about that in the budget, see if we need to do another rate increase to start building up the reserves. I think we have done that now.
did it.
We just did it.
Just did it.
We'll just see how it's growing. If it's growing fast enough for potential projects, or if we see something coming sooner, then.
One of the things that the village capitalized on was the high frequency of water breaks and the high frequency of water breaks that impact a lot of customers. And we did that by capitalizing on the last two projects. We have a water line that runs across of Sundowns here. It's an 8-inch water main. It's old, it has a high frequency of water breaks, but the impact right there, you can isolate it, have 1 or 2 houses that are low pressure, and they cost, say, $3,000 to repair. Those ones, we're not worried about replacing water mains on that, because something might happen in Sundowns down the road.
Yeah, something that would require major work. Right. No, I think that's a good idea. Good. Any other topics? Okay, so we'll start working on the budget, and Jody would like to have those,
End of the month.
End of February, no?
yeah, roughly a week before the March 3rd meeting, at least. So we'll start getting things to Jody as early as possible.
And if there are meetings, with our signees, like you and I?
Oh, yeah, we've got, yeah, if there are things that we need to do, we'll set those up in between and try to get those done soon, too.
So I'm available.
Okay.
Whenever, just tell me where and when.
We'll schedule that.
Okay.
All right. Okay, the next topic is mayor's comments. I think I've commented quite enough for tonight. John, thank you for coming tonight.
You're welcome. I think it's an important thing to come.
Yeah, it is. Wolfgang?
Well, I don't know whether you guys know that we had pretty frequent power outages up in my area. Basically 3 days in a row, always at the same time.
Oh, my goodness.
Today, and always about 124 customers affected.
I had someone call me about that, and I'd never heard about that before. They're like, we just moved here. Does this happen all the time? I'm like, I have never heard of
Looks
that.
like it was always the same transformer.
What is it again?
Power outages. 3 days in a row, always the same time of the day. So it went away, however, it's just annoying for, let's say, everybody, because you have to reset all your clocks and your water softener and whatever, you know.
Did they last?
Not long. The first one was about 1.5 hours, something like that, and then they figured it out. The last one was half an hour. But it was always about the same, about around noon to 1 p.m. And so, you know, you're sitting on your computer and working and trying to do conference calls, and boom, the power's out. So that was really annoying.
Was it a nice day working on it then?
It's nice. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, would public comment be appropriate on this same subject?
Sure.
46 Norway, same problem.
Well, you're in the same.
We are, a lot of people in our.
Yeah, you're in the same district, or in the same segment for these guys like I.
And it's, no one has an answer. We had our little homeowners meeting and everybody complained, but no one had, some people had called and said that they were working on replacing those pipes on Craft, or those telephone poles on Craft, and that might have something to do with it. Somebody said two buildings they're building are planned because there's still got 2 more. There was no good answers. We could call them nice if they eventually put it on, but it was too regular. They're turning off for some regular work on something. The public just doesn't know about it.
I
I don't think it's a faulty system. I think it's, you know, they have to do these repairs, they have to do certain things for safety to people and everything else. They can't tell every customer whatever.
If you keep having it, let me know. I have some pretty good contacts to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I can find out now if you'd like me to.
I mean, I don't know.
John, if you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I think that's a good idea. Let's try to get an answer and we can communicate that to,
Yeah, I will.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's just for information. It went away it was about 2 weeks ago, right? Something like that? Yep. And after 3 days, obviously, they have it fixed, but I'm not sure if they permanently fixed it.
You don't trust it now.
No, I don't trust it. Well, for other reasons, but it's,
Yeah. Well,
for me, it looks like somebody probably down in the management offices, they got a new machine and they switched it off or on.
coffee maker.
And no, that's not enough power. But, you know, if you take load off the grid instantly or things like that, then something like that happens. And, you know, it was really always the same time of the day, which would support kind of this kind of theory. But anyway.
There is a medical facility over there, isn't there?
There are some medical facilities. Okay. So anyway, doesn't matter. So it happened. Thanks for the confirmation.
Youth Services met, Quio met, Planning Board met, and here I am. But everybody well, with the exception of the Planning Board, and David Fernandez did give, where's Lisa? There she is, a very thorough presentation to the Planning Board with regard to the tree law.
Okay, good.
So they have all that information.
Good.
So that was,
Glad the information finally came.
yes. And Quio, same, you know, and Youth Services, they're just looking at their services and what they offer and the money they have to spend, and so it's continues, but I don't see much happening with them, and, you know, for the next year, so they're trying to plan. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Susan. Carolyn?
So bulbs, I contacted first the grantor and asked her if we could apply again? She said yes. And then I contacted William, the tractor driver, and asked him if he would plan with us again. He said absolutely. So I was wondering, Ronnie, if you would fill out the same form you did last time. Didn't take you very long.
I'll just have to find it again. Last time they sent me a link. I'll go back and find it and I'll
Okay.
send it out.
And by the way, the town is applying again, and they're applying for the exact same thing also, which is banners again. They are gonna try to just change the color of the font so that they're more visible. So they're doing the same thing. She said, yes, you can apply again, but if we get new applications, they may get preference.
Yeah.
But last time it was just the town and us, and they're doing the same thing, and so we should be able to do the same thing again also.
So if we just capitalize on the bulbs, because it's easy on the grant, and it's easy to use, like our own workforce, you know what I mean, as part of the grant. We can do the banners at any time in the budget. I feel like we can put a little money in there. Do you know how much they?
Well, how much the banners that the town are doing? Well, my issue with the town banners is really the design, and my issue with the banner for us is really that I want a good design. I designed that banner, okay, at the town, but I didn't make the banner. But that's different because they have an iconic thing that we could take a picture of and then use. We don't have that for the village, and I've been thinking about how we can visually represent the village. So I would want a professional to help us conceive of a logo that could be representative of the village. I sort of have a kind of vision in mind, something with like a lake and some buildings and, you know, like over there and over here, but it's not something that I just want to throw up there and like have it look like Photoshop or you know.
But I hate to spend $10,000.
That's ridiculous.
I mean.
I would like a designed logo for the village before we design banners. Or if there was an iconic image like the lighthouse, which I think works great, that'd be, if you could think of something that we could just take a picture of and actually in Photoshop.
Brown Road Water Tower.
Turn it into watercolor, which is basically what we did over there.
I think some of the things that the village is famous for is what you want to target.
Yeah.
You know, the Twin Glen Creeks are famous.
They are?
All over. Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, just stuff like that.
All right.
Is what you're trying to, I'm not saying that's what you gotta have, I'm just saying.
That's a good idea, though. I didn't even have an idea. I was thinking more of.
When you're trip hammer centric.
That's what I was
Going
thinking.
down the hill,
Trip hammer.
it's gorgeous, you know, it really is.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Trip Hammer corridor and how can we like make that into a cute picture without a professional? We can't.
If we keep planting bulbs, we can do bulbs.
You know, I love a bulb.
Notice when they go down 13 and look at the Cuga Heights rock cut and all the red bud trees in the spring, they're all on the rock cuts. They're the only thing growing. And I can't believe nobody's ever hasn't seen them before. But that's one of the
I've
most
seen them.
amazing things you've ever seen. The red buds that are all over.
So
Wild red buds.
So you're on like the exit ramps you're talking about?
If
Like,
you just go down through there and look at those big rock cuts, all the little trees are red buds. And this spring, they'll be amazing, I guarantee it.
is that representative of the village? I'll take a picture or two.
Yeah, we need,
Anyway.
well, next time you drive by and they're budding and blooming, take a picture, so we
I can
can.
probably pull up some Google Maps real quick and go back in the months and look
Okay,
at that.
anyway, so bulbs, yes, if we could do that again, thank you. And then just quickly, for the town trails meetings, I have a conflict for the next 3.5 months, so I told them I'll participate in the email communications, and then I'll attend the meetings in person again, starting in May. I don't think that, you know, it's gonna be fine. And that's it.
Thank you, Carolyn. Kathleen?
Let's see, the core advisory group is meeting on the February 18th, and they're having a presentation on the code blue sheltering. So if any of you or the municipality, if there are any questions that you have, they're collecting questions ahead of time for the presenter. So it's going to be, DSS is going to be
Where is it?
addressing the issue.
Send it?
It's a Zoom,
Oh, okay, it's an online, virtual meeting?
yeah.
Okay.
So please, if you've got any questions right now, and if not, just shoot me an email. And I'll come back with
I have no
answers. And then, let's see, Bolton Point, they have tips on their website for frozen pipes and what to do if you're going to be away, so you don't have a burst pipe. And also the drinking water quality reports there. And Department of Emergency Response had their cold weather safety tips on the Tompkins Ready site.
Anything else?
No, oh, it's state budget time, oh, tomorrow, actually. They have all the hearings going on right now. So it's the local government and the general government budget hearing at 9:30 in the morning.
I said that I didn't have a comment. I actually do have a comment. It's a request. The community party is looking for a replacement trustee to fill Wolfgang's seat. Since Wolfgang won't be running this year, they're still looking. So if you have any potential names, someone who might be interested, contact Larry Bieri or Julie Baker, or you can send it to me and I'll forward it on to them too. So beyond that, I have nothing else tonight.
Jody, when is our next noon meeting?
Next Thursday, not this week, but next week.
13th, 10 days from today.
Got it, great.
Yeah. Okay, no other discussion, I will move adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.